1, 2, 3, 4, clap your hands. Welcome back, Pokemon trainers. Professor Chaz here. The lab coat's on back order, and day 2 of the 2015 Pokemon World Championships has just ended. The stream ended just a few minutes ago there, and I'm going to give you some highlights on all the events that happened. Now, myself, I actually didn't get to sit down and tune in until around 3 o'clock or so Eastern Time. So I was coming into it just near the end of I think the 6th round of the Swiss matchups for the Pokemon video game. And we were seeing some pretty impressive battles going on there. A lot of popular Pokemon being used. Many teams were featuring the same particular Pokemon, which was pretty cool to see. Like, a lot of powerhouses coming in. And then they had some intermission stuff going on there. But the highlight of the day actually started with when they posted the ladder match pairings for the single elimination rounds in the top 8 cut of the top players. Now, they were starting off with the video game first of all. And of the 8 top players, we have one player from Germany, I think it was. The other 7 were all from Japan, which was pretty cool to see, like, one country sort of just about completely dominating the standings in the top 8 of the world's best video game Pokemon players. And this is the Masters Division. There's also the Juniors and Seniors Division, but they were just showing the Masters Division matches on the live stream. So, the first match that we got to see was in the top 8, and it was featuring... I've got my notes here. I actually made notes this time, so I have a little bit more structure to what I'm going to be telling you. And we had, from Germany, the trainer Lio, who was bringing in, I think that's how you pronounce it, he was bringing Amoonguss, Landorus, Therian Form, Heatran, and Wash Rotom. And those were the 4 he chose for his battle. His opponent was Yosuke, who was bringing a Sylveon, Mega Kangaskhan, Heatran, and Landorus Therian Form as well. So 2 repeat Pokemon on either side, Heatran and Landorus. Now, the matches were pretty impressive. Yosuke managed to win the first match, and he took the lead there with Game 1. Game 2 was a little bit more evenly paced. Halfway through the match, Lio managed to get a knockout on Yosuke's Landorus using Wash Rotom's Hydro Pump. So that was 1 knockout for Lio's team. This match actually went to time. Time ran out, and from the point of that knockout, it became sort of a game of Lio trying to preserve his Pokemon from knockouts, because what happened when time ran out, since he had 4 Pokemon left and Yosuke only had 3, the match was given to Lio because he had more remaining Pokemon. So that put them into Game 3. In Game 3, Yosuke, who was, later on mentioned in an interview that his goal for Pokemon Worlds was to try and get a Japanese player into the top spot, the world champion of the Masters Video Game Division. And thanks to his performance in his match against the only non-Japanese competitor, Yosuke won his match, making sure that the world champion in the Master Division for video game will be one of the trainers from Japan. So congratulations to Yosuke for coming out the victor there. And he moved on to the top 4 matches. And following that, so they had all the matches going on at the same time, but since they have 1 live stream, they can only show us 1 match. The other matches all took place as well. Then we got to see the top 4. And I think they moved us over to the other side of the bracket because we had 2 other players. Their names were Naohito, who was bringing a Landorus Therian Form, Cresselia, Mega Kangaskhan, and an Aegislash, which I thought was pretty cool. Aegislash is maybe not one of my top favorite Pokemon, but it's certainly up there now that I've trained one in my own Pokemon X game. His opponent was Shoma, who was bringing Heatran, Mega Kangaskhan, Landorus Therian Form as well, and also a Thundurus. So, pretty similar teams in a way. We have repeats of the Landorus and Mega Kangaskhan in this case. There was a number of Pokemon that were very popular on a lot of teams, those 2 being the most, not most noteworthy, but they were noteworthy enough, because we saw a lot of action from those guys. Now, Game 1 was actually a pretty intense match where both sides were getting knockouts, but on the same turn as one guy got a knockout, the other player got a knockout against his Pokemon. So, for example, in the first, I believe it was Naohito's Landorus that managed to get an Earthquake off and knock out the Mega Kangaskhan. That very same turn, Shoma's Heatran got off a Heat Wave attack that knocked out that Landorus. So 1 knockout for a knockout. Next turn, maybe 2 turns later, same thing kind of happened. We had Shoma's Landorus get a knockoff attack against Naohito's Cresselia, knocking that out. But then Naohito managed to get a low kick from his Mega Kangaskhan that knocked out the Heatran. So just blow for blow, knockout for knockout, things were going back and forth. But in the end, as it turned out, Shoma managed to take the lead by knocking out, I forget what no, I have it all written down right here, knocked out the Mega Kangaskhan, leaving just Aegislash on Naohito's side of the board. Facing off against, we had Thundurus and, I'm going to say, not Heatran, not Kangaskhan, nope, not Heatran, not Kangaskhan, Thundurus and Landorus, I think it was. I might be getting it all mixed up. I have made notes, and here I am messing them up. But anyway, came down to 2 Pokemon against 1, so Shoma managed to win the fight because he just knocked out all the Pokemon. Game 2 began, and they actually started with the same Pokemon, so they were pretty confident in their starts, their lead Pokemon, that they were doing it again. And as it turned out, the match kind of turned out the same way. Shoma managed to get the knockouts, taking out Naohito's team, so Shoma has made it into the finals of the Masters Division video game of Pokémon World Championships, which is going to be broadcast on Twitch TV tomorrow. Now, I don't know who he's going to be matched up against. I'm not sure who won the other side of the bracket. I'm going to, I guess, be surprised and find out tomorrow myself. So that's something to tune in for. Following this, they had things set up for the TCG Top 8. And this one was a little bit more, diverse in nationality. We had players from various regions. For example, we had Simon from right in the U.S. And he was actually bringing a deck that I thought was pretty cool because I am a player who likes to not use EXs if I can. Like, I like to use non-EXs and try to use clever abilities and trainer cards and different strategies to just show how powerful a non-EX deck can be, even in a format where you're dealing with decks that might primarily focus on EX Pokemon and like Mega Evolutions and stuff. So, we had Simon who was bringing a Hawlucha Donphan deck. Now, apparently Donphan was a card that was okay in its time, but it wasn't really anything too noteworthy. But thanks to the Furious Fist expansion, we got a lot of boosts to fighting-type Pokemon in the TCG. We got Strong Energy, we had the Fighting Stadium, the base set of X and Y gave us Muscle Bands. Suddenly, Donphan was now a force to be reckoned with. It has a move, I think it's called Spinning Tackle, which does 40 damage, and then you can swap it for like a bench Pokemon. With all these boosts, you can be doing 100 damage with Spinning Tackle against an EX. And Hawlucha, that's a card with like free retreat, which is something I like to suggest for decks. Just, doesn't cost anything to retreat, why not have that Pokemon in there? It can only attack an EX Pokemon, but with all these boosts, it can be doing 100 damage as well, sometimes even more. So, this particular trainer, Simon, managed to beat out a very noteworthy trainer from past World Championships. When I went into this, I was thinking, I don't see Jason Klaczynski anywhere in this top 8. I thought he would have made it. I also wondered where the Werelord EX deck from Enrique Avila was at. None of them were there, because apparently Simon, using this deck of Hawlucha and Donphan, beat Jason Klaczynski in the last of the Swiss rounds, from what they said on the stream. So, as it turns out, Jason was using the Seismitoad Crobat, or Seismitoad EX/Crobat deck, and as it just so happens, Simon's first opponent was using the exact same deck, or at least a similar deck. It was Igor from Portugal, Seismitoad EX and Crobat, a few other cards in there as well, such as Shaman for the setup ability, and the match was underway between those two. Now the thing about Seismitoad EX decks, we've seen a lot of them in the higher tier tournaments. Their first attack for Seismitoad EX is Quaking Punch, which says it shuts down all of your opponent's item cards. Like, after you've Quaking Punched, on your opponent's next turn, they cannot play item cards from their hand. Because of this, Seismitoad EX managed to take a bit of a lead in the game and prevented Simon from being able to play any of his trainer, or not any of his trainer cards, but any of his item cards, and Igor managed to take the first win. In Game 2, things were a little bit more balanced from the get-go. Igor actually had to start with Shaman EX from hand. That was his only basic Pokemon in his opening hand, which gave Simon a few turns to get some items set up. So he managed to put a few of these Robo Substitutes into play, which is a card, it's a trainer card that takes the place of a Pokemon when you play it on your bench. So you can put it in your active slot. It's given an HP of 30. It's basically there just to take some hits for you while you power up your bench. If your opponent knocks it out, they don't gain a prize for it. It's just like a buffer, basically. So, Simon did have time to get some of those into play and some other items. But in the end, Igor did manage to get Seismitoad EX in play, power it up with the double colorless and a muscle band, and managed to take the game 2-0 for the Seismitoad EX deck. So congratulations to Igor, making his way into the top 4 of the TCG Masters Division. Which came up next? So they moved us to the other side of the bracket. We had Jacob running an Archie's Blastoise deck. Now what this is, you know, Blastoise is a stage 2 Pokemon, which means you got to play a Squirtle, play a Wartortle, and then Blastoise on top of that. However, if you remember from the unboxing video that I did about the Primal Groudon Trainer, or Primal Groudon Elite Trainer box, Archie's Ace in the Hole, which I pulled the full art of that, and I still have that. It says you can only play it if it's the only card in your hand. If it is, choose a water Pokemon from your discard pile and put it right onto your bench, even if it's a stage 2, you don't need to evolve into it. Then you draw 5 more cards. So the idea of this Archie's Blastoise deck, you run a lot of cards that are like Ultra Ball or Superior Energy Retrieval that say discard cards from your hand to use this effect, such as search for a Pokemon or retrieve energy. So you want to whittle down your hand until you have nothing but Archie's Ace in the Hole. Then you can play it, get your Blastoise into play without needing those turns to evolve it. Then you have that resource in play right there. And Blastoise's ability, Deluge, says you can attach as many water energy from your hand to your Pokemon as often as you like during your turn. If you can get a handful of water energy from that point, just put them all down in one go. So, I was rooting for this deck because Squirtle is one of my favorite Pokemon, therefore the Blastoise line I have a fondness towards. Another reason I was rooting for this Blastoise deck to win is because it was facing Night March. And Night March is a deck that has defeated me in 2 turns in the past, and I used to have Lysandre's trump card to fall back on and save the day, but it's been banned, so therefore Night March, me and Night March don't get along that well. I understand it's a good deck, I'm not trying to put it down or anything, it's fine, I'm just joking. But anyways, I was rooting for Blastoise. So, Blastoise was Night March was being run by the opposing trainer by the name of Merlin, and I really want to give props to Merlin. He was there at the table with a nice Mudkip plushie doll. And I like plushie dolls, and you can see them right back here. So, Mudkip, I have a fondness for water starter Pokemon, and seeing Mudkip there on the table, it's pretty cool. So, the match began. We had Jacob taking the first turn, and he managed to play so many good cards. There was Shaman in the first turn, he had Keldeo EX, he managed to get everything he needed. Blastoise was in play right on the first turn, and he was set up to start powering up on the next turn. Then we come over to Merlin's side. All he had on his side was Joltik, for his basic Pokemon, and the remainder of his hand was not really playable. So he used a Professor Juniper to discard a whole hand, such as there was a Shaman EX, I think, in there, and some other really good cards to draw 7 more. But with Night March, you need to get your Battle Compressors to discard Night March Pokemon. That 7 cards he drew from the Juniper didn't get any of the resources he needed. So Merlin actually conceded the match right then, because he knew he wouldn't be set up in time to prevent Jacob from winning on the next turn. So that was a quick win for Jacob, going to Game 2, and I think Merlin took the first turn this time, and he actually had a better hand this time. He was able to get the Battle Compressor started, he got Night March on the go. We had a bit more of a back and forth in this one, but in the end, thanks to, I believe, yes, it was a Lysandre's trump card, not trump card, it was the Lysandre card, that when you play it, you can choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon and bring it active. So if they're hiding something on the bench, trying to power it up, or if they have something that's weak and about to faint, and they're keeping it from you, Lysandre can bring it active, and then you can knock it out. So, I found out from a lot of the TCG matches, and Lysandre played a part in the Donphan versus Seismitoad deck as well, or, match. Lysandre is actually a really good card because you can control the battlefield. It's almost like the magnetic warp that Metagross has in the new set, but you control your opponent switching in. So, thanks to that, we had Jacob, who was able to knock out an EX on the last turn and gain his last 2 prizes, and he won Game 2 as well, so he won his round 2-0, defeating the Night March deck. Way to go, Blastoise! And he made it into the finals of the Masters Division TCG, taking place tomorrow. Congratulations to Jacob, congratulations to Blastoise. I think it's pretty cool to see a non-EX Blastoise-themed deck make it right to the finals. I'm rooting for it to win, even though it's going to be going up against Seismitoad EX. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean Igor won, because as it turned out, the Jacob versus Merlin match got done so fast, they were able to cut over to the other side of the semifinals, which was Igor playing against a trainer by the name of Mies, both of which had the Seismitoad EX Crobat deck on the go. Now, there was a pretty back and forth for this. It was basically a race of who can get their Seismitoad EX powered up and Quaking Punching first, shutting down the opponent's item cards. And the first match actually went to Igor, but by the time we got to it, he had already won, so he was already up 1-0 by the time they started live streaming it. And that match was going on a little bit. Mies managed to come out the winner in Game 2, evening it up 1-1. In the third match, things were again kind of evenly paced for a little bit, but by the end of it, Mies managed to play just the cards he needed. Mies won over Igor, so his Seismitoad EX deck is carrying him into the finals of the TCG Masters Division tomorrow, so congratulations to Mies. So, all that being said, we've got some pretty intense battles lined up for tomorrow, the final day, Day 3 of the 2015 Pokémon World Championships. And from what I understand, they're going to be live streaming the junior division of either the video game or the card game. I'm not sure which they're going to do first, but they're going to show us the juniors, the seniors, and the masters starting tomorrow, I believe at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you haven't checked out any of the live stream yet, I highly recommend you do if you're into Pokemon, and you should be into Pokemon because why else are you watching this video? And they're going to have some pretty cool stuff going on tomorrow. This is I think they said it's the 12th, I could be completely wrong. I think they might have said it was the 12th annual Pokemon World Championships. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But anyways, look forward to that tomorrow. I'll have a link in the description to the Twitch TV Pokemon page, and go check it out. Watch for some really cool matches tomorrow. I know I'll be watching. And with that, I gave you all the highlights from today. I'm going to end the video here because it's been a long day. I'm kind of hungry, kind of tired, and I'm going to fuel myself up for tomorrow. Well, thanks for checking out this video, and I'll catch you next time.